What's up, all you mentees? You know what time of the week it is. That's right, it's time to take a look at some of these trade paperbacks coming out from Marvel Comics this week. So, let's get started. And welcome back, everybody. Before getting started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and all the folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of these trade paperbacks. These trades are due out in the direct market on September 15th, and then a couple of weeks later in the book market. So, I'll be putting timestamps, even though there's not a lot of them, in the description below. So let's go ahead and get started with Savage Avengers. So, here we have the Savage Avengers, Volume 4. King in Black. So this is also another series that gets involved with the King in Black. However, not really a lot of issues in here. We're talking about just one or two issues at most, even though there are ramifications because of the things that happen in King in Black. And this volume, more than any of the other volumes that have come prior to this, feels like a Conan story that just happens to feature a bunch of other Marvel characters. So this is written by Jerry Duggan, Kev Walker supplying the artwork for issues 17 through 19, and then Patrick Searcher doing issues 20 through 22. You have Scott Hanna on ink, as well as Kev Walker. Now, I'm a big fan of Kev Walker. He's the gentleman that drew some Thunderbolts. He did Avengers Arena. So, always been a big fan of his artwork. And his art for Conan really fits in. Conan decides to celebrate and get drunk and gets thrown into Rikers Island. And he gets sent to jail. And of course, who's going to help him break out? Well, none other than the Merc with the Mouth, Deadpool. So together, in a really unique way, he's able to break out of Rikers Island with Deadpool. And along with this guy right here, Nightflyer, they break out into the city, only to find themselves fighting against some dragons. And of course, these are Null's dragons. So they're not just fighting Null's dragons, but they're also fighting nullified versions of some superheroes. The covers are freaking phenomenal too. I really like those. But Conan has some flashbacks to his prior time where he may or may not have encountered some of these symbiotes. And then he encounters the X-Men. See what I mean? This, out of all of the Savage Avengers books, feels more like a Conan reacting to these superheroes. He's looking for Wolverine when he finds the X-Men, and still teaming up with Deadpool. Now, but it's not just superheroes that he reacts to. There's also supervillains, if you still consider the Rhino a supervillain. But he has a team up with the Rhino, and Spider-Man shows up, of course. And one thing I didn't mention was the X-Men he does run into are the Marauders. So that's another book that Jerry Duggan is working on. So it's not just the X-Men from Krakoa, but characters that have appeared in the pages of the Marauders. And of course, during all this time, it's Conan still looking for the Sorcerer, Kulan Gath. And just showing some of Patrick Searcher's artwork back here. And then he does get involved with the Hellfire Club. This is kind of crazy. This feels like a long what if story, but I'm loving it. I hope one day this stuff gets collected in some kind of oversized hardcover format. Yeah, let's not talk about the last story, so you could be surprised, but let's look at some of the extras back here. So the book retails for $17.99 and has 136 pages. I love the Michael Cho two-tone variants. And collects issues 17 through 22 of the Savage Avengers. And here we have some finished pages with just the inks from inside the book. Alright, let's keep going. Next up is Miles Morales, The Clone Saga. Anytime I see that name, it brings back memories of those 90s comics with the Clone Saga all over them. Of course, that was a couple of years, and this is just this particular book. Retailing for $19.99. And this is one actually that I remember going over the solicits, and David was like, oh yeah, we haven't revealed that title yet. But I didn't get that email until afterwards, so I had already announced the book. Not that it was that huge of a surprise for a lot of people that have been reading it, but for the trade waiters, you have the title that says Clone Saga. Immediately, some of them get a bad taste in their mouth. So the story kicks off with the fill-in artist here of Natasha Bustos, and it teams up Miles Morales with Sterling, a character that showed up in The Champions. And this is, of course, after the Kamala Law So superheroes, young superheroes, aren't supposed to be out fighting by themselves. They're supposed to have some kind of adult supervision. And then we get to Carmen Carnero's artwork, who draws the rest of the book. And it kicks off with a tie-in to The King in Black. This is another one where the superhero is having to fight nullified versions of other superheroes. In this case, it's Miles fighting Kamala. But the main thing about this particular story is, of course, the Clone Saga. So these three characters show up right here in this issue number 25 that confront Miles, and one of them claims to be, his name is Silim, which actually, although it kind of sounds silly, it's just Miles spelled backwards. He actually gives it a little bit of a background, and that's what I like about Saladin Ahmed. He could have taken something so ridiculous as spelling your name backwards, but he gives it some depth and definition. I like that about this. So it's not the typical Clone Saga that you see during the Ultimate Spider-Man, or of course the classic Clone Saga by Jerry Conway, or the 90s Clone Saga. This is its own thing, because all three of these Spider-Man are different in their own way. All three of these clones. So these three right here, you have Selim, Mind Spinner, and Shift. These are the three clones of maybe Miles Morales, and they all have their own purpose. They all have their own drive and their own mission. And of course, there's not just superheroics, there has to be some drama. So there's some things going on between Miles and Genki and a certain girl. And of course, all of that draws drama for their friendship. What is a Spider-Man title without drama? And I think one of my favorite things about this particular Clone Saga is the character of Selim. I think that he's a pretty interesting character that has the drive to do the things that he's doing, the decisions that he's making. Kind of gives himself some purpose. I like that. The other two clones kind of grew on me too. And let's look in the back here for some extras. No extras in the back, but all the variants are on the opposite page, usually, of the standard edition cover, so you have them in thumbnail size. The book has 168 pages and collects issues 22 through 28 of Miles Morales' Ultimate Spider-Man, or just Spider-Man, rather. Yeah, I'm really digging Saladin Ahmed's take on the character. It's been a lot of fun reading about Miles. This is a series I hope they continue. And there's all your spines together for this week. The X titles. So, more of Reign of X collected in trade paperback format. Here is Excalibur Volume 3 by Tini Howard and Marcos To. So this team has been on this book since issue number 1, and I know that sounds really weird to brag on, but, you know, not a lot of teams stay together for this long. Which is kind of crazy, but Marcos To has been drawing this since issue number 1, and I'm a big fan of Marcos's artwork. So this is the Reign of X era, and as a matter of fact, I think this is the only time I've seen this where it says chapters 13 through 15 can be found in X of Swords, or 10 of Swords. So it does take place after the big event that is X of Swords. So this kind of takes place in between that and the next event that's happening, which is the trial of Blank. You can find out who it is. No, it's not a mutant named Blank. It's just a character I don't want to spoil. But this leads into the Hellfire Gala, which is the bookend of this particular collection. So this is in the aftermath of X of Swords. A couple of the team members have, well, let's just say they're out of commission at the beginning of this. So of course the team is mourning the loss of a couple of these team members, and surprisingly affecting Richter in ways I didn't think it would affect him. But I guess it kind of makes sense if you go back to the issues of X Factor when he first appeared. I get it. But Tini Howard throws in, of course, fantasy elements, all this myth about the Captain Britain Legion, and then you get a couple of surprise appearances in here. And if you're freaking out about some of these characters that are showing up through these pages, don't freak out too much. Some of them don't take place in the real world, and some of them are done through flashbacks, so just keep that in mind. And of course, with everything, nothing is as it seems in the pages of the X-Men. But hey, let's end it with a party. I just have to showcase some of these costumes, or some of these outfits for the Hellfire Gala. Can't wait for that oversized hardcover. And as far as the extras in the back, you have the covers here. Love that Russell Dodderman Rogue cover. And yes, the Hellfire Gala covers. And then, of course, where else you can find Excalibur in trade paperback format. But remember, Volume 1 hardcover did come out last month. So the book has 160 pages and retails for $17.99, collecting issues 16 through 21 of Excalibur. Last but not least is the Uncanny X-Men, Rise and Fall of the Shi'ar Empire by Ed Brubaker, Billy Tan, and Clayton Henry. Those are the main people that work on this book. The book retails for $34.99 and collects Uncanny X-Men 475 to 486. Now, if you've watched my reading orders, you know that this takes place immediately after Chris Claremont's third or second return to X-Men. So after he leaves, they get this guy named Ed Brubaker to come in and write the characters of the X-Men. Now, he had previously written this miniseries called Deadly Genesis. As a matter of fact, Deadly Genesis is what introduces us to this retconish character named Vulcan, or Gabriel. And he does have relations to some of the X-Men, but in case you don't know and you want to just look at some of the artwork, I'm going to keep away from that spoiler. But it all kicks off with Professor Xavier forming a new team of X-Men and taking them out into space. So this is practically the era of X-Men in space. And I love the fact that he picks Warpath as one of the characters he takes with him. Brubaker just wanted to think outside of the box and didn't want to take Wolverine. So he was like, you know, Warpath is pretty badass with those blades. Let's take him. I love the fact that Lorna jumps in. So Polaris, Havoc, they're some of my favorite characters that were, at the time, just not being utilized. So Warpath and, of course, Rachel Grey. Now, I don't think she was known as Prestige during this time. She was just going as Phoenix. And they also take this mutant right here named Darwin, who was introduced in the pages of Deadly Genesis. And the whole idea behind this is to go get Vulcan back, because Vulcan is going crazy. He's going after his lineage. And Professor Xavier says, no, we got to put a stop to that. We have to go and find Vulcan. And who better to take with me than Havoc and Polaris and Warpath? There are reasons why he chooses this team in particular, and I kind of dig that. I kind of dig the idea of why he chose Warpath too. But if you've never read it, you can find out for yourself exactly why he decides to take this particular team. So meanwhile, you have Vulcan going freaking nuts and attacking the Shi'ar Empire. And if you're familiar with the Dark Phoenix saga, you know how badass the Imperial Guard is. You know how strong Gladiator is. And this guy is just able to take out most of this team, including killing a couple of the team members. Like I mentioned, there are some surprise guest stars and some just unexpected alliances that happen. But yeah, this is the year-long story that took the X-Men into space. The book has 312 pages. And one thing I was going to say is that if you've seen my reading order of the modern cosmic saga from Marvel, then you know that this leads into one particular storyline called War of the Kings. Then I strongly suggest reading it if you're interested in the Marvel modern cosmic saga. So Annihilation, Conquest, Realm of the or Prelude to War of the Kings, and then Realm of the Kings. I strongly suggest reading this if you're interested at all in that, because that sets up some of the pieces that are very important to that particular story. But just showcasing some of Billy Tan's artwork and Clayton Henry's artwork. I think both of these artists are now at Valiant. Let's look at the extras in the back. So we have some character designs. By the way, this has been collected in trade paperbacks before. It's been collected in an oversized hardcover. It's part of the War of the Kings omnibus. So it has been collected in oversized format. I'd love to see an oversized hardcover collection of this stuff with the title X-Men Omnibus on there by Ed Brubaker and Matt Fraction. That would be really cool, but perhaps one day. It kind of gives you a glimpse of what's to come. This was an interview with Ed Brubaker. kind of like a spotlight, talking about some of the ideas that he had after writing Deadly Genesis. And I remember when that was happening, when he was writing that miniseries, I was thinking, oh man, please don't tell me that they're going to take Chris Claremont off of the book. Changes. You just got to get used to it. It's X-Men. It's what happens. But this is X-Men, Rise and Fall of the Shi'ar Empire, and that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for brand new graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They pride themselves on packaging your books so they arrive safely in an excellent condition, as well as prompt and helpful service. Check out the bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. CGN is excited to announce that they are now taking pre-orders. They're making it easier for you to ensure that you don't miss out on the hottest releases. CGN is currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, let them know that you were referred by Near Mint Condition at the checkout, and you'll receive a credit for free shipping on your next order. This promotion is valid for U.S. customers only. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount and quality shipping and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of each of these trades. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you're picking up, if you're still in the hopes for a Savage Avengers oversized hardcovers, like myself, if you're hoping Excalibur will one day be part of the Dawn of X or Reign of X Omnis. Right now, all we know is that they have oversized hardcovers. And then what you think about the Miles Morales series. Are you having fun with it? Do you like this era of Miles Morales? And of course, if you have the Rise and Fall of the Shi'ar Empire, or if you've never read it, leave those comments down below. If you have any more questions, also leave those questions down below. This is the Uncanny Omar. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications to let you know when our videos are going live. And speaking of live, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Old Reader, New Reader comes back. And more importantly, everyone, stay healthy, stay safe, and much love.